For 14 weeks, I woke up every single morning with an excuse already formed before my feet hit the floor. It was the job, the 47-hour weeks that left me incapable of original thought by the time I walked through my front door at 6:15 every evening, jacket still on, keys still in hand, standing in the hallway not quite ready to begin the rest of the day. It was the apartment, the one bedroom I was renting in the northern quarter, with walls thin enough that I could hear my neighbor's television through the plasterboard every night between 9 and 11. It was the timing, the economy, the noise of everyone building things in the same space at the same time. I had set a goal. I had told 6 people, clearly and with some degree of bravado, that I would launch a consulting side project by the end of October, and for 14 weeks I watched that deadline approaching like a slow car crash and did absolutely nothing to stop it. I want to be precise about what doing nothing actually looked like, because it did not feel like nothing at the time. Every Monday morning I sat down at my kitchen table at 7 a.m. with a large black coffee from the Nespresso machine, opened my laptop, and told myself that this week would be different. I made lists. I reorganized my Notion workspace. I created a new color-coded calendar. I watched YouTube videos about productivity systems, Cal Newport, Ali Abdaal, David Allen, and took detailed, meticulous notes that I then added to a growing archive of detailed, meticulous notes I never once looked at again. I rearranged the order of tasks. I thought carefully about the sequencing of deliverables. I did everything around the work except the work itself. By Friday of each week, I had a beautifully organized system for producing nothing, and I told myself I had been productive. The excuses were not dishonest, exactly. The job was genuinely demanding, the apartment was genuinely loud, my schedule was genuinely crowded, but what I was doing, and I could not see this at all while I was doing it, was outsourcing the responsibility for my own life to a set of external conditions that I had no real intention of changing. As long as the reason for my failure lived outside of me, I was protected. I did not have to look at the actual thing, which was that I was frightened, and I was choosing comfort over discomfort every single morning, and dressing that choice in the language of circumstance so that it was unrecognizable even to myself. The weeks accumulated. The goal did not move. And the distance between where I said I wanted to go and where I was actually standing grew into something I had to actively avoid thinking about, because thinking about it clearly for more than a few seconds produced a specific physical sensation I can only describe as a tightening in the chest, followed by the urgent need to open a new browser tab. By week 12, the excuses had grown so elaborate that they possessed their own internal logic. I had constructed a complete and coherent narrative about why my situation was uniquely difficult, why the timing was unfortunate for someone in my industry, why a person with my specific workload could not reasonably be expected to produce results on the side, why the conditions were simply not right yet. I rehearsed this narrative so thoroughly that I could deliver it fluently with nuance and conviction. I told it to my friend Daniel over pints at the Winds Protection on a Thursday evening, laying it all out with the confidence of someone who had thought deeply about the matter. He listened to every word without once interrupting. He held eye contact. He nodded at the appropriate moments. When I finished, he set his glass down on the table and said 5 words. He said, "Are you going to do it? That sounds genuinely difficult. I completely understand. And any of the validation I had engineered that entire evening to receive." Just 5 words, flat and direct, hanging in the air between us like a question that had been waiting 14 weeks for someone to ask it. I did not answer him that night. I changed the subject, finished my pint, took the tram home, and sat in the dark of my kitchen for 40 minutes without turning on a single light. I did not open my laptop. I did not make a list. I sat in the dark with the question, and in that silence, something arrived that was so obvious I was ashamed it had taken 14 weeks to find. Nobody was going to do this for me. The job was not going to become less demanding because I resented it. The apartment was not going to quieten because I found it inconvenient. The deadline was not going to extend itself out of sympathy for my situation. Every single morning that I had woken up and assembled an excuse, I had been making a choice, and I had been disguising it as a circumstance. No one was coming to save me. I opened my laptop at 11 p.m. that same night and worked on actual deliverables for 3 hours. Not reorganizing, not planning. The work itself, drafting the proposal, writing the positioning, defining the offer. It was imperfect and rough, and I cringed at sections of it. But at 2 a.m., there was something in existence that had not existed at 11 p.m., and I had produced it, and no external condition had helped or needed to. I launched 11 days later. It was imperfect, but it was real. If you're out there right now, sitting with a goal that has been sitting with you for longer than you want to admit, with a set of reasons that are entirely legitimate and entirely insufficient, I want to say something directly. The reasons being real does not make them the cause. You can be in a genuinely difficult situation and still be the person most responsible for what happens next. Those two things live comfortably side by side. Stop building systems for the work and do the work. Today, not this week. Pick a deliverable, not a framework for the deliverable, not a plan for approaching the deliverable, but the actual thing itself, and produce a version of it that exists in the world by the time you go to sleep tonight. It does not need to be good, it needs to exist. Imperfect output produced today will outperform a perfect plan produced never, every single time, without exception. Tell someone your commitment out loud. Verbally to a human being whose opinion of you matters, not in a journal or private note to self, but spoken directly to a person who will ask you about it later. The discomfort of admitting you have not done it is one of the most efficient accountability mechanisms available to you. 5 words from Daniel were worth more to me than 14 weeks of productivity optimization. No app, no system, no calendar, color code will replicate the specific friction of looking at someone and telling them you didn't do what you said you would do. Jocko Willink, in his book Extreme Ownership, argues that the leader of any team is always responsible. That when things fail, the answer is never the circumstances, it is always the person at the top of the chain. I read that book after October and found it so uncomfortable that I read it cover to cover in 48 hours. That intensity of discomfort almost always signals something is true. Stop waiting for the conditions to improve. Stop waiting for the right energy, the right season, the quieter apartment, the less demanding job. The conditions will not reorganize themselves on your behalf. The only variable you have ever controlled is what you do with what you have right now in this job, in this city, in this particular and unrepeatable season of your life. And the moment you stop waiting for external salvation and accept that you are completely responsible for what happens next, things begin to move in ways that no system, no plan, and no perfect moment could ever produce. No one is coming to save you. Pick up the work yourself. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.